the Simple Organization Squad, where we know that life is chaotic enough, and so your organizing should be simple. I am so excited today because we have a guest that I've been wanting to have on for a long time. You know what? Let me just bring her right in and let her. There we are. Hey, Corinne. This is a good friend of mine, upfront, full disclosure, good friend and amazing woman. This is Corinne. She's the blogger behind Wondermom Wannabe, which is a lifestyle and parenting blog where she shares tips and strategies to help make family life less work and more fun. And I know everybody would like that, less work and more fun.
So Corinne, tell us for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited for you to be here. This is just an excuse for us to get to talk some more.
Like we need more.
Right, exactly. And then share some tips along the way too. Tell us a little bit about you and your background.
So I am a mom. I've got 5 kids. My husband is a retired military. So like you, we moved around a lot. So I don't think I'm organized by nature, which is maybe why I like to share tips, because if it works for me, it really can work for anyone, essentially. So I was organized. I got organized basically out of necessity. Like, when you're moving around constantly, you're not in your family. You know all this, Susan, but for your audience, you have to be. Otherwise, too many things slip through the cracks. And then my spouse was deployed for I don't know, more than half of the time that we were in. So anyways, it was a lot of, just trying to manage all the details of all the kids. So if I share a strategy, and I am sharing one of my favorites today, like, rest assured, anyone can do it.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that first drew me to your blog was that we have similar outlooks that life is busy enough. Like if you have a family, well, just life in general, but with a family, with a larger family, you don't need complicated trips.
Right. And it's harder to get, and this was my thing, in the stress of military life, it's really easy to let your emotions get away from you. And Susan knows this because she's like my part-time therapist. That's, we're very close friends. When I'm stressed, I'm not my best version of myself. And when you make things too complicated for the family to join in on, then you just end up, there's more on your plate and you end up being resentful. And so in order for me to be happy with how I was behaving every day, I really needed simple strategies.
Well, and tell us about Wondermom Wannabe and your thought behind the name.
So first of all, I'm a huge Wonder Woman fan. I have been since like I was a little kid. I was obsessed with Wonder Woman. But that really came from military life, and particularly when we lived on base. So for those that aren't familiar with military living, when you live on base, basically everyone gets the same house. So you're in the exact same house, and all the spouses make the same. So and most of the wives are stay-at-home moms at the time because we're moving off to some podunk little place where there isn't really anything for us to do. So everyone pretty much makes the same amount of money. We have the exact same house. So really the only things that change are like how many kids you have, maybe. So it was amazing to me, the difference between like one person's house to another. And none of that is in my skill set, by the way, like making a house look pretty, making it be perfectly, put together and cleaned and spotless is not what I enjoy doing. So I really felt like a failure a lot when I was with these other moms, seeing like how like their houses were so beautiful and put together, and then somehow their kids came out and looked adorable at the bus stop, and they were also somehow managing to make it to the gym, and they all looked like they were in great shape. And just this concept of feeling like I was, one, constantly failing, and then 2, just being such an imposter. Like, did I even belong in this community? Because I was a hot mess. And again, another thing, Susan, it's something else that's great about them. I know I just made military living sound horrible. One of the great things about it is because you're not in your family and no one's in your family, that it's like your peers and your friends become your family. So eventually, like, I had a nervous breakdown, and would admit this to the other moms because I'm beyond caring, because I'm failing at everything. And that's when, they start to tell you, well, yeah, my house is clean, but my kids haven't had dinner for, the past 6 weeks. Like, we've been eating Triscuits and cheese or whatever. Like, no one person was holding all the things together at the same time. But when you're watching and you're looking, you're only looking at the best of everyone else and seeing the worst in yourself. So I was under this impression I was surrounded by all these superhero moms and I was just a colossal failure. And that's when I realized that really it wasn't the case, right? Like everybody's got a wheelhouse, everybody's got an area of genius, right? And it's figuring that out and then working with your friends and working with your family to figure out how do you fake it well in the other areas. And I always tell the story because it was such an enlightenment to me. One of my friends, because I'm like, your house is always spotless. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yeah, it is. Every time I come over, you're cleaning. And she's like, mm-mm. She's like, I literally leave. I won't name her. But it was like, I think it's genius.
It wasn't me.
It was not Susan. But she would leave her vacuum cleaner intentionally in the middle of the living room, like right when you walked in where you would see it. So it looked like no matter when because it happens in military life, people stop in on you unexpectedly. If you stop by, it always looked like you caught her in the middle of cleaning,
That's
which was my
brilliant.
perception. My perception was that her house was spotless because every time I came over, she was just in the middle of doing laundry, or there would be like, she was dusting, or no, she's
Brilliant.
staging it. Yeah,
Brilliant.
she's
So,
staging it.
this is what I love about the tips that you share. They're real tips for real families, busy families, and they work.
They
So,
do. Sometimes it's faking it. Like that, that wasn't making her house cleaner, which should be the goal, right? But it was giving her enough of a mental break, like from that anxiety of worrying about showing up and her house wasn't perfect. It was just enough so that she could do the other things that were important in her, in her world. And we all have different things we prioritize.
So you've just let us peek behind your curtain, but I know that you are very organized and very structured and purposeful in your, don't argue with me, in your parenting and family life. And one of the things that has always intrigued me about you, because you really implement this, is color coordinated organizing.
Oh,
And
I do. And again, because it's so easy. It's so easy. And not only is it easy conceptually and easy to implement, it's easy to get the rest of the family to stick to it. Because again, like when I have to start chasing them around to do the chores, like it makes me grumpy and then I start to resent people. So color coding, like everybody knows their colors, right? And then it's even simpler. I've heard of people doing it other ways. What works for me is everybody in the family gets a color.
okay.
So
Now
yeah,
did you assign the colors or did they pick them?
they picked.
Okay.
They picked. And it's funny, we play a lot of board games. So I thought, and I recommend this to other people because other people apparently their favorite colors change. So it's not been the case in my family, but in other families, their favorite colors change. So my recommendation is always to let your family repick every, periodically, whether it's once a year or every 6, whatever, like however often your colors change, do that. But my family pretty much stuck. Like my husband has always joked, like he would pick doo-doo brown. So he would always pick brown. We always joked that I was a wannabe ninja. So my color was always black. My oldest son thinks red is a winter color. So his was always red. Like my kids never change their colors. But you can. But when you take that color, so this was what was so easy about it. You pick a color and then that was that person's color for everything, which is why it's helpful to let them pick their color. Because if they pick their favorite color, they don't mind that everything's the same color. And how far you take this is like completely up to you, right? And Susan, like I'm a firm believer in that. Like I think this was a great tip for my family. It worked so phenomenal that we do it with everything, but it may not for everyone. And if it doesn't, like take the pieces where you think this works and then ignore the rest. You don't have to color coordinate everything. I'm going to give you a list though of all the different things you can color coordinate. You don't
I
have
love
to do that way, or you don't even have to do it by person. Like that worked for us easier because I originally started it with the calendar, right? So when I would do the calendar, it was very easy for me to see at a glance, like whether Adam had to be somewhere, which one of my kids had to be where, or whether it was like my husband's task, so I could ignore it because it wasn't something that I needed, like whatever. So that to me was easiest. But some people I know do it by like by sport or by category. So they'll have, so if they've got a couple different kids that play soccer, they've got the soccer equipment and, like that's a color. So they've got a color for their soccer bag, then they've got a different color for gymnastics or whatever. So they'll do it that way. That just, whatever, it didn't work for me. For me, it was easiest with the kids. So this is what people ask me, like, what do you color coordinate aside from the calendar, right? The calendar is an obvious one, and that's where we started. But then it went to the next thing that made me insane. I had 7 people in my family, and somehow we were using like 30 glasses a day, right? Like somebody would go and get a glass of water, they'd leave it on the counter, and then they'd come back to get more water later, and they couldn't remember, was that my glass or was that my brother's? And despite the fact that they roll around together and they cough all over each other, we couldn't possibly drink from the same glass. Like, that's unthinkable. So they get out a new glass. And so at the end of the day, I was literally loading every single glass we owned into the dishwasher because, and again, I'd only had 7 people in the house. So we color coordinate the glasses next. Yeah. Everybody had a color, so you knew exactly whose color was. And if you do that, if you use that method for glasses, plates, anything like that. My kids were older when we started doing this, so I didn't do it with like the plates, but you can. I think IKEA has some cute ones. Walmart has some cute ones too. But we didn't do it. We just did it with the glasses. If you do that, make sure you get at least 2 extra colors to use for guests.
Okay.
So, yeah, because it's funny once people have their color, because we each person got 2 glasses, right? So that you'd have one to use if one was in the dishwasher or whatever. So everybody got 2 glasses. So the number of fits people would throw when somebody had friends over and they let their friend use like somebody else's color. When you get your family on board the color coding, they go all in. So at least that's how my family was. Yeah, so glassware for us was the next one. But then I started to see the potential. So folders, like for all of their paperwork, each child had their own folder in our like command center. I did not do because I matched them to the bathroom, but you can do it with like towels and toothbrushes. You can really carry that over. We did it with hangers. And then also I had to start doing this later. This happened very late for me. But if like I've got 2 boys that are the same age. And once they got full sized, like once they were, fully grown, their socks and my oldest son's socks and my husband's socks were indistinguishable from one another. So if you've got a white sock family, I recommend like going to the store. If you can get like where it says Hanes, sometimes those are in different colors, get those, or where they've got just a line around it. But you can also get like a fabric marker and just mark them like inconspicuously in a spot that's easy to see. Or with underwear. Again, like the underwear. Thankfully, my 2 that were the same age were 2, like one was a boxer guy, one was a boxer briefs. I'm not going to name them because if my kids ever watch this, they're going to be annoyed with me for sharing this information. But
which is my children's worst fear, that I'll name them. Yeah.
So, anyways, but you can mark things like that. That would be helpful. And I didn't do that with my kids because they were, I've got boy, girl. Like it was until we, had the second boy that come in was the same age. And the socks, we did use it for socks because that was complicated. We did it for umbrellas one year. We've also done it for like.
Wait, hold on. I love the umbrella idea.
Yeah.
Because that in our family was the biggest thing. Like maybe it's just with me. I have my favorite umbrella. And most of ours are black. There's a couple different things, but my umbrella was always missing. Like, how can you not know that that's my favorite umbrella? But if they had been color coordinated, it would have been clear that wasn't the one to take.
Now, I will say too, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to find like the umbrellas. That was probably my most challenging one. Toothbrushes are easier. Umbrellas are kind of hard to find like all the right colors because that's the other thing. Like when you choose a blue, if you've got a blue and a turquoise, which, we did at one point, if you've got a blue and a turquoise, like you can't really stray from the blue. Like you got to stick with the navy, you got to stick with the turquoise. And that can be kind of hard when you get to umbrellas. So my tip for that is electrical tape, or using washi tape, like, something where you can easily mark things so that you can distinguish. So everybody can have a black umbrella, but you just put a little swatch of, electrical tape around the handle. So it's easy to distinguish whose is whose.
And with that tip, that also would allow people to change their color then if they want to change from whatever color they had chosen last year. Yeah, we use washi tape here a lot to,
Yeah.
and by we, I mean me, but I use washi tape a lot to identify things.
I don't know. We don't have an electrician in the family, but for some reason we have a large stock of electrical tape at all times. So we used it on tennis rackets, like for tennis rackets, because I should correct this so that no one thinks that we actually are good at tennis. We play tennis a lot in my family and we are horrible at it. So like we're the type of tennis players that it's like the goal of it is to see how many times you can volley it back and forth across the net before it goes out of bounds, outside of the tennis court. So, but we do like to play tennis, so we all have tennis rackets. So that was with electrical tape because I think they're all exactly the same brand.
And I would think it would be more important too that like I've taken care of, if I'm not that good of a tennis player, I want the tennis racket I've taken care of and will give me the best chance at winning the next time with the family.
Well, and I will say, if you've got anyone with a temper, it does keep them from throwing it.
Oh, good point. Right. Because that'll be theirs. Oh.
Yeah. Then they've got the broken one. They can't just swap it out. Now and I don't know why this wasn't, my family's just not wired this way. I don't know that I have a great tip if you've got a family where people are inclined to like mess with each other. Like, some child in the middle of the night pulling off the electrical tape and, doing it with another color. So you might need a more permanent solution in those.
I was thinking more people with the cups, maybe taking somebody else's cup and then leaving it, not putting it away. Or
well, who was most guilty of that was my husband, and the kids, like it was like the color police. Like they'd shame him publicly in the family, and not publicly outside the house, but in the family.
Right, in the family. That's funny.
You're not purple.
Because I know, so I had 3 children, so we had 5 people. So I had the same glass problem you had, and I did not have color coded organizing for my glasses. But when one went to college, so there are now 4 glasses. Well, that was a little bit easier. But when the second one went to college and there were 3 of us, I told my 3rd child, okay, now I know 100% who leaves the glasses out. So it does make it a lot easier to clearly know. And then I think even subconsciously knowing that someone can identify, then you're more inclined to put it away.
Right.
Like, oh, there's no plausible deniability here. Now I need to.
Right. Well, and it saves so much time, I realized, because like the kids had Sunday school and they each had, just a book bag to bring, but, they wouldn't use their regular book bag because stuff, like the regular backpack, because stuff would get forgotten in one bag or not the other. So they had separate bags for Sunday school, and, they're all different grade levels. So if they grab the wrong bag, like you don't have your homework, you don't have the right books, but all the, like the curriculum there was exactly the same. So like by the feel of the bag, it's exactly the same. They all had a folder, a workbook, and then the book, right? So that was just easier to have the colored bags. If I had started it when the kids were much younger, I stumbled on this later. We had toy bins when I had primary colored toy bins. I probably would have assigned one to each child, when they were younger, but we didn't, like I said, I came to this strategy later in life. But it just saves so much time because there's less thinking when you go to grab something. Everybody knows, like there's no shuffling around looking for stuff. Everybody knows exactly, which one to grab. And, if somebody loses it, we just didn't waste time on the who was it, whose fault was, like you said.
Yeah, time is precious when you're a busy family. So anything that can save that time and that stress. Are there any general guidelines you'd recommend if someone's going to start color coordinating?
So I would let the family pick their colors. You get better buy-in. I'm big on buy-in, right? So you get better buy-in if you let them choose their own colors. And then also, like I said, my kids, kept their same colors. But if you maybe once a year, let them shuffle just so, because especially if you start this when the kids are younger, because the little girl that loves pink is going to probably outgrow that, so give them a chance to swap it up.
You said don't mix and mingle, I think was the only other thing.
Yeah. Don't, when they pick a color, have that be the color. So, you're not, if child A has, the yellow toothbrush, then they also have the yellow bag. That's why, you want it to be their favorite color because they're going to be seeing that color a lot. The simpler you can keep it, again, the more likely that the family is going to stick with it and the
So
more
it's
successful it will be.
more successful. It sounds almost like you need to figure out what items you're going to color code and then go make sure you can find those items in the colors before you start.
Right. Or
I
find
mean,
a way that you can mark them, right? Like,
mark
so
them.
again, with plates, you wouldn't have to go, we happen to find glasses. I should have brought one that had like a little colored band at the bottom. But again, if you just had a way to mark it, if you had, like a marker that wouldn't wash off in the dishwasher. So you don't
Mhm.
have to necessarily go find sets of things that come in the
Okay.
colors. And the more kids you have, that does get more difficult, right? Like when we got to glasses, that became a bigger challenge. Some things it's very like towels is very easy to do. So yeah, it does. You don't have to find the things, but find a way that you can mark things so that it's easy to distinguish. But yeah, that's a great tip. Like I said, not everybody's going to do everything. You're not going to color code everything. And for me, I started in like our biggest problem areas, keeping track of where everybody needed to be. So it was my calendar. Then the glasses was making me crazy, and then eventually socks became a problem. So those were the three big ones for me. But
So
I mean, if something can come in a color or you can apply a color to it, there's really just no reason you would have to like you could color code anything as long as it makes your life
everything.
easier.
So one of the things I know, just in not because I had color coded my kids, we had done dots, like little dots. So number one kid was dot 1, 2, 3, and that way I could pass clothes down too. It
Oh,
worked
that's
for
smart.
us. But in our bathroom, to make it the kids' bathroom, to make it easier, I would just go into like Ross's or TJ Maxx, go to the sale towels and buy brightly colored towels. So that way, if one got messed up, it wasn't part of a set. It was just mix
Right.
and match rainbow colored towels. And it worked out perfectly because I could buy, nice towels, but they were discounted because it was the one lime green one left or the one yellow one.
Right.
So I think with what you're describing too, it would work. You could save money if you have a larger family by
That's
just
true.
right in Target, go to that discount end cap and get the red and blue cups or whatever the
Right. Right.
things are. So it could be a money saver. Well, so if a family was going to start if doing color coding now, is there one area that you'd recommend they start in?
I think the calendar is, assuming that you keep a calendar, which I think honestly, and I know this from like my audience, it is like one of the biggest, aside from getting kids to do chores, that's the other one, right? Which color
Right,
coding
right.
may not solve for you. Aside from getting kids to do chores, it's just like not letting balls drop, right? Because we've got all 1,000 things to do. So again, for me, it was the calendar, and I think that's easy because I don't, and I'm a visual person, so the different colored pens just makes me happy. So it will make the calendar seem less stressful, like it when it's all decorated in pretty colors. So I think the calendar is an easy way to start, whether it's a dry erase board or it's a paper calendar. So either colored dry erase markers or colored pens. That's an easy way to start, and to start like thinking about different things in terms of color, right? Like you start to associate like from a distance. And I think that's what triggers most people, because from a distance across the room, you may not even be able to read the boards, but you can see which items are red. And like I'm looking over at my calendars if anyone can see it, right? Like, oh, I can see that next week is a busy week for, child B, whatever. So
What
I think that's a great place to start. And then, like I said, classes worked for me, but I would just pick after that your next problem area. So if it's, I know a lot of people do the color coded towels for that reason, because kids don't hang them, like they don't hang them up is the number one thing I hear. Or they
Yeah.
use them once and put them in the hamper, which for a lot of people is very annoying. That a
Right.
lot of moms that don't want to be washing a whole load of towels every day.
No, we don't need more work in our lives, that's for sure. We have
So,
enough required work. Um, I think too, like my audience knows I'm a paper calendar person, but starting with a calendar, that's easy, especially if you're a digital calendar person, because they're super easy to
oh yeah,
digitize. I mean, to color.
right,
And also, I can see, like, I'm notorious for at the time you write it down, you write down soccer 3:15, and well, that's child number 2. But 3 weeks from now, I'm like, wait, was that child number 1 or number 2? But if you color coded it, without thinking
right.
that was child That was the green child, whatever.
Well, and if you use Google Calendar, I mean, for those that do it digitally, yeah, you can assign the different colors there and you can toggle on and off. So if for some reason, like your child has you're trying to make a dentist appointment for, child A, you can just toggle on child A's color and look and see, what days they have free. So
Right. Well,
again, it's just a time saver, which for me, as you know, Susan, I'm stingy with my time. So
well,
anything that saves me seconds.
and I know you have the same philosophy. The reason I want to help people get organized is not because, although I love the organizing part, but it's so that you can make more space and time for whatever it is you want to do.
Right.
And I know that's your philosophy too. You're saving time, making things easier so you can spend that time then with your family or doing something you want to do.
Right.
Because none of us want to do
Yeah.
chores.
So yeah, chores or, just sit and watch a movie. Like that may be a waste of time, but it's how I want to waste my time. I like
Right.
the control over how I'm spending my time.
Right. Well, I love these ideas. I'm super motivated. I know that, like me, you're a paper printables person, and I think you have a special gift for our audience.
I do. So I have for all of my subscribers at Wondermom, I have a printables library. And currently, I think I'm sitting at like 220 free printables in that library for all aspects of like either organizing home life, and then I have a lot of kids activities too, just because I used to love that, like to print off mazes or something for them to do to stay occupied. So there's all sorts of printables in that library. And if you subscribe, then you get access to that. If you want to copy everything in there or download everything and then get off the list, that's fine. Like you don't need to stick around. I have it available to people that opt into the list just so everybody doesn't accidentally stumble upon it. So I think I shared the link with you. So if they just go to that link and enter their email address, they get immediate access. And again, like you can download all of the printables there. You have to open up each one to get them, but they're organized. Thanks to you, Susan. Susan shared a really great idea with me about how to organize that. So they're all organized by like season and by category. So if you want to just look for checklist or if you want to look for Halloween printables, like there's lots of different ways to search for them so you can find what you're looking for. And there's also like a little search icon, a little hourglass, or not hourglass, magnifying glass. So if you know specifically you're looking for something, you can type it in and see if I've got it.
So, and I will tell you now, you will go and spend hours because I do. I have, and I do again and again. Corinne has some of the best printables. They're fun for kids and also really helpful checklists for adults. And one of my favorites of hers that I will drop in the comments is her emergency binder, which is a great resource for families to get organized. But Corinne, if our audience wants to find you, tell us where we can find you.
So I'm on all social media. TikTok, you'll see my account there. There are no videos. So if you're looking for videos, but on all social media, I'm on as Wondermom Wannabe. Depending on, I think it's Twitter and which social platform limited me so you couldn't get the E on the end. But if you look for Wondermom Wannabe, and then also on my site, or you can, if anybody ever wants to email me, and if you've got questions, it's Corinne, CORINNE, at wondermomwannabe.com.
And I really encourage you to go check out. Corinne has amazing resources for everyone who wants to be a Wonder Mom. Thanks so much, Corinne. I had a lot of fun talking about the color-coded organizing. I love it, and I love how you implement
I love chatting with you.
So I'm going to run now and do some organizing and look for colorful umbrellas because that's what I'm excited about. But thanks, Corinne.
Thanks for having me.